Hello and welcome to today's content, which will be on Oberon Heindler because he has been announced and his information actually came out early. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin and talk about this unit. Also, considering that the raid was also announced for Aigaon, I will be getting that out very soon. It will be during my birthday week, so yeah, during Oberon week I might be gone for a while, but we'll see. Anyways, yeah, let's get to the next slide. And here we are for abilities for Oberon. He does have a new main job, which is going to be the Young Dragon King. With this main job, he's going to get as a base unit Halting Spear, Purple Dragon's Providence, Royal Rend. Keep in mind this does hit twice. And Purple Dragon's Shield, which is a barrier for himself, and Soaring Dragon Spear. Soaring Dragon Spear has two versions. The one version, like without the ability activated by Tracer, is if he does go for a jump and then the opponent moves before the jump lands, it will miss. However, with a passive that activates Tracer, if he locks onto an enemy and casts the jump, even if they move, when he lands like the jump, like his turn, like cast time like resolves, he will hit that jump. So yeah, keep in mind that is going to be activated by a passive specifically. From here, his limit break is going to be 8 Path Dragon Shine, which is going to decrease all elemental resistance by 20%. I think this actually stacks with other specific elemental resistances, and what I mean by that is that if Helena uses her limit break for negative 38% dark, and then Oberon uses this, I think the dark turns into negative 58% resistance, I think. And I say this because you are able to stack all elemental resistances and then a specific resistance together. And you can see this change in terms of like if you use the Alexander ring, which is 5%, I think 5%, right? All elemental resistances, and you use like Light Bracer or something like that, you notice you get an additional like 5% onto that element specifically that you're targeting, which is light or dark. So yeah, if this works exactly the same way as I think it should be able to stack. And yeah, I will stand corrected once Oberon comes out, but I do believe this is how it works, so it will be really strong. For EX upgrades, his Halting Spear now turns into Halting Spear Plus. And what this happens is that instead of 2 tiles out, he gains 3 tiles out, which is very nice for his positioning. From here, his Dragon Purple Shield Barrier ability is going to turn into Purple Dragon's Aegis, which is going to additionally give him a Pierce attack of 25 for 3 turns for himself. This also has a cast time. I did not put the icon, however, but it does have a cast time regardless, just to put the barrier on himself. Also, lastly, for his EX upgrades, his EX ability, which is also very important, he gets this at job level, I think it was at 24 or 25, so you literally have to max him out as a unit. Gets Thunder Smite, which this does is it's going to be Lightning Killer at 25, so it will literally like shut down lightning units in general. However, most importantly, it has a 100% hit chance, which is very important to evasion units, especially because he has a very bad luck stat overall. This 100% hit is very nice. Now, as sub-job for Young Dragon King, he's going to get Subjugating Spear and Banner of the Dragon. His Viking sub-job, most importantly, is going to be Killing Axe and Launch, specifically if he wants more harder hitting slash abilities. He also has on the Nightblade sub-job that he does have Spinning Slash as well as Stun Blade, so most of the hard hitting damage will either be from Spinning Slash for Slash or Killing Axe on Viking. So yeah, I mean, unless you want just more Pierce and like mobility, you can go to Young Dragon sub-job as well. Here we are at resistances and passives. So resistances to damage type, 10% to slash, 5% to pierce, 0% to strike, 15% to missile, and negative 10% to magic. As you can see, overall, he's actually pretty good into most physical damage matchups, even though he has a little bit of weakness to magic, which can easily be remedied by a certain setup, or just specific magical resistance setup. He has 0% AoE resistance, however, he does have 10% single target resistance, which is very nice to have. As level 120, Master Ability included, he has 8 defense and 0 spirit. His resistances to statuses is going to be 50% to stop, very good, 50% to stun, which is pretty nice to have considering how many stuns exist in the game now than it did before, and then 10% to paralysis, which is not bad, it's better than nothing. You have to keep in mind he has no disable resistance, which is a little concerning. For Master Ability, he's going to get the Mono Earth Element, and then he's going to get 10% HP for himself, even more, like off his elemental mono element benefits, as well as 10 single target resistance, which is why I showed above he does have 10% single target resistance. He is a 3 move 4 jump unit as well as a 100 cost. Unfortunately, 100 cost kind of like plaguing the game right now, but I mean, hey, that's just how it is. He's gonna be a little bit more expensive compared to other units unless you get lucky on pulls. So yeah, that is something to think about. For his passives, what I recommend is going to be Dragon Spear Mastery, most importantly not only for the damage, but because of the defense penetration. If you do not use this passive, he doesn't have a defense imperil or penetration outside of this without a setup. So yeah, it is a little concerning if you don't use this. And then here you can use either Tracer for the Soaring Dragon Spear ability if you want to lock on, as well as give him an acquired AP up, which is going to be good for AP generation. Or you can use Viking Lore, which is going to capitalize on his HP percentage and then a little bit more damage. For Niche and Flex, the reason why I didn't put Nightblade Mastery up here is because the additional accuracy does not help him hit evasion units. It will not be anywhere enough because of his low total luck stat, unfortunately. Additionally, his 30% attack here, he does not have the highest base attack stat in general, so going off his huge HP pool instead, Viking Lore I see is a better balance compared to Nightblade Mastery. And lastly, Unyielding Protection. Missile resistance 15% is very good, especially if you're going against missile only damage. However, if they have missile resistance penetration and or they have any other damage type, then Jaden's not going to have a good time with that passive. So overall, I do believe the recommended passives are way more stronger in general. For reaction abilities, you can get Purple Dragon's Blade, Fighting Spirit, and Counter Swing. Purple Dragon's Blade is pretty much just Dragoon Blade, or like Dragon's Blade, but it just, they added his name on it. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's that. It does have piercing, however, so there is something to consider. It can hit multiple targets if they're in a line specifically. It's up to only 2 tiles away. So yeah, overall, I would just recommend just using Purple Dragon's Blade, honestly. Here we are at Oberon's rating out of 5. Now, I did rate him a 4.5 out of 5, which I think is very, very strong of a unit. However, I will say out there, just in case the people are like, maybe you didn't think that he was good and like maybe you just wanted to hear what I said, I highly thought about putting him as a 4 out of 5 only because of what is coming out. However, I do believe he does have a good position in the meta because of what he is capable of right now as well as in the future. So yeah, in the end, I did end up giving him a 4.5 out of 5 as a unit. So the pros, let's talk about this. He's able to become a very high HP bruiser with increasing damage returns over time due to multiple imperils. Not only does he have an all elemental resistance imperil, he also has a pierce resistance imperil, and on his main job, he also has the earth resistance imperil. You can stack, I believe you can stack the earth and all elemental with the pierce, so he not only has 3 imperils for more increasing damage, he's able to capitalize off all 3 of them as well. So it is something to think about in terms of how much damage he can deal in one go. I will say, however, his burst damage potential is lower compared to other units because he doesn't have the tools and like high damage stat in that comparison. He has very high HP for a DPS. I believe he's like 4.3k or higher, I believe. He has decent attack stat and then good agility. Unfortunately for his good agility, he can get outsped because his base agility is a little bit lower, but his board agility keeps him at a decently competitive rate. His Soaring Dragon Spear is a long-range imperil that pierce imperils and deals very good damage. He's able to access both slash and pierce attack types with high damage modifiers. He's able to be a Dragoon that opens up the possibility of equipping the Raid armor, which is coming out later with the Eye Guy on Raid, the Azure Dragon armor, which to further boost his HP. And because he has a high base and total HP, boosting his HP is actually a very viable strat to just have him still be a consistent DPS. Thunder Smite is easily able to handle a lightning and evasion units. Like, he will not have too much of a hard time against those specifically. I will say, however, maybe against like 2 or 3 evasion units, he's going to struggle because he only has a few usages of Thunder Smite. However, if they do have at least 1 evasion unit, he will not have to worry too much about it. His Limit Break is flexible in that it helps a Rainbow Party setup still deal damage, so that it's not going to be kind of selfish where it's only Earth Elemental resistance. He can do it for all, which is going to be very nice in terms of just rainbow setups in general. So he's going to be a good valid +1. He has 50% to barrier for himself, so he does have damage mitigation options on top of his very high HP, on top of his single target resistance, so just keep that all in mind. He's able to provide AoE resistance buff to his teammates as well as crit evasion, which is going to be significantly reducing damage taken if they are like hitting towards either critical hits and or AoE. His Viking and Nightblade subjobs open up a possibility of high damage slash attacks, as I said earlier, for access to slash and pierce. So it's just really just reiterating it. He does have access to good slash damage. It's not going to be like Dream Within a Dream on Ninja subjob, which barely does any damage, only sets up chain. He does have Killing Axe and Spinning Slash, which is going to be very strong like slash damages if he gets it off. His 10% single target resistance is actually very strong. Just like King Mont, like in some other units in the past as well, like Agrius, single target and AoE resistance can be used in a variety of ways, especially if we ever get a return of like Guild War and Arena maps where single target or AoE resistance goes up as the bonus. These units that can abuse these resistances are going to be extremely broken and strong. It's very hard to deal with them in almost all circumstances. Also, he does not necessarily need bells. If you are using the Tracer passive and he has a few turns for buffs like his barrier and then like another ability, he can definitely like gain a lot of AP very quickly because of the extra 40% acquired AP up. Now let's talk about the cons. He has no spirit, so he has 0 spirit, and his only real strong resistance is going to be missile, which doesn't mean too much because even if you raise it higher, it's not going to be effective against the most flexible damage matchups right now, which is going to be slash and magic attack types, which are very widely used in general. So yeah, having only missile resistance being his quote-unquote strong resistance is not going to be too amazing. His base attack stat is low enough that even Aranea, who is a 90 cost unit, scales better for damage, and he kind of needs damage in his setup. Like, since he has a lower base attack, his total attack is nice because his board and stuff like increases damage total. However, that means attack percentage based like vision cards and such will not be as impactful on Oberon compared to other units because they have a better base attack. That's why I put, for example, Aranea in that situation. And yeah, I know Aranea is not out yet, but I'm just showing an example. A 100 cost unit should not have that excuse compared to a 90 cost unit in terms of just stats in general or just the overall arcing like situation. Another thing, he does not have any barrier breaks, and he does not have any 3-hit abilities to chain, making barriers a very effective tool against Oberon. His damage potential I even saw against Helena. If Helena does not have her limit break and or has barrier TMR and or they don't have any pierce resistance increasing things, Oberon can one-shot her. However, if Helena does have her barrier and or pierce resistance even a little bit, he cannot one-shot her anymore. In most circumstances, almost all Helena's does have a setup that has a barrier and or like re-raise, so yeah, he has to kind of be concerned about that. He is a Dragoon, meaning he is not able to equip the Brigandine, so if you did want a very like big AoE setup for Oberon, he is not capable of doing so, unfortunately. The Soaring Dragon Spear is a jump that only locks onto the target if you use the Tracer passive. If you do not use the Tracer passive, then there is a much less chance of Oberon using Soaring Dragon Spear, also because his total agility is good, however his base agility is not that great. So even raising his agility will not be as fast compared to like the Giga Speed Demons, which is going to be like Elena, Jaden, Helena, stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. He is innately weak to magic attack types with 0 spirit, meaning Helena and Halloween Leela will enjoy eating up Oberon if he is not mitigating against it. If he is mitigating against that, he will be fine, but without it, if you're running him without any resistances against magic attack types, he will melt very quickly. His damage potential is locked behind imperils and debuffs, so if they do get resisted and or like he is not able to get those off, his damage will be significantly less. I believe his peak attack stat with like a attack setup was like 1k or 1.1k. He really needs his imperils and debuffs to land. It's not too hard for them to land, but if they do have resistances against it, then he's gonna start struggling to output damage like consistently. He is vulnerable to disable, meaning if he does run up next to his tank or something and then Dwayne just goes like, oh, Eternal Darkness, I'm gonna just throw that in there, it is highly probable that he can be disabled, so keep that in mind as well. Now the two important things. One, June, which is another 100 cost unit, is a wind tank, is a counter to many earth units, and even Oberon will have a hard time against her. Not only does she cover slash and pierce resistances very highly, she is also defense tanky, as well as she is the opposite element against Oberon. Not only this, she also has 100% hit abilities. She will shut down 95% of earth teams in general by her alone because of what kit she has. So if you want to use Oberon for like a month or two before he gets kind of shut out by more meta teams that are going to be using June, just keep that in mind. Maybe you don't want to necessarily splurge on your Vizier right now for Oberon. Maybe you want to like save up in the future for him. But yeah, in the end, lastly, Oberon is missing just enough to not be meta defining and changing from what in my opinion, and he has the tools right now at least to fit in with the current meta and does have a future unit, like I don't like saying often, that is a counter to him. I don't like using the word counter or hard counter, but I do believe Joom, after looking at her stats and skills and abilities in the JP side of things, she is insanely strong against all Earth units. There are no backups. There's no, like, oh, maybe I could use this setup to go against her. There is not much you can really do against that. So yeah, that's why I don't like saying counter often, but he does have a counter unit coming out, and she is going to be a 100 cost unit and quote unquote meta, so it's going to be really difficult for Oberon to kind of like fight into that situation. Additionally, his damage ramps up due to the Imperils, and even as a 90 cost, Aranea is almost equal to him in terms of usability and damage. Aranea actually has the same amount of damage as Oberon, however, because Aranea's pierce attack comes pierce attack resistance Imperil comes out after the limit break hits, she is in the same situation as Oberon, where they need a little bit of more turns to ramp up. However, Oberon does beat her out eventually in terms, because he does have three usable Imperils, while Aranea only has one. So after the second one in general, Oberon will be doing much more damage. Now let's talk about TMR. His Dragon Fang Pauldron, which is armor type, 449 HP, it's alright. 8 defense and 8 spirit is a good balance, and then 10 critical rate. From here, I did give it a 3.5 out of 5. The reason why, I think the active effect, which is the presence of the dragon, is really insanely strong. However, in terms of autoplay, you will almost never really see this being used like very well and or like how you want it. But 2, if you use it in class matches, can be potentially game changing and extremely strong. So just keep that in mind. It's able to nullify haste for all enemies, which if you played class match and you went against like really campy setups, people are just hasting their units forever and then quickening if you get too close, or keen blading. This can nullify haste all in one turn, like literally snap of your fingers, nullify all haste. This also decreases critical rate, which has a chance to like decrease damage taken from your enemies if they're reliable on critical hits, so this is nice to have, and it increases damage for whoever the user is. So yeah, ultimately the potential is there if you use it mostly for class match and or manual gameplay, especially even tournaments. However, in the auto setup situation, it is very hard to get this very off well as not a lot of people are using a lot of haste cheese right now, at least on the current Guild War map. But yeah, overall, this is how I see Oberon, as a 4.5 out of 5. I almost gave him a 4 out of 5 because of Joom alone. However, outside of Joom and or wind units in general, Oberon actually is pretty capable of handling himself in general. So yeah, overall, this is his rating. And because he does have a 3.5 and higher, I do have example setup on the next slide. So here's my example setup for Oberon. First off, Halloween Ryu is going to be using the Dreams of Heroism vision card, mostly for the AoE resistance as well as HP percentage. Zazan is going to be here with a Solitary Lion vision card, not only to boost everyone's damage with the Earth Attack 35, which is huge, to also give them accuracy just in general. I mean, accuracy is mostly going to be used for Zazan and Ryu, but it's also the slash resistance penetration, specifically for Ryu as well as Zazan. But most importantly, the damage, the Earth Attack is going to be useful for Oberon. For Oberon, we're going to be getting his Elemental Spear, which is coming out soon, which is going to have 30 Earth Attack as well as 15 Pierce, which is going to be very strong for him. The Azure Dragon Armor, which is coming out for the raid from Igaion, is going to be very good in terms of increasing his HP. He's going to be literally capitalizing super high HP. From here, we're going to be using Summer Killface TMR for AP generation as well as Shell. This is going to help him tank magic damage in general, and because he has a very high HP stat, having Shell alone will help him survive at least 2 or 3 hits of magic damage, even if it's from Helena. He's going to be using the Titan Esper specifically because of the Spirit. You want 15 Spirit on that in my opinion. He also has the Pierce and Earth Attack once Titan 3-star comes out. And he's going to be using the Great Elk Vision card, which is going to be coming out as well, which in a week or 2 should be coming out, which is going to also cover single target resistance as well as giving him Pierce Attack. So with this setup, not only is Oberon getting a total of 70 attack modifier because 35 from Solitary Lion, 35 Pierce from the Elk, he's also giving agility to the team because of the vision card. It's only 8%, but that's better than nothing. And then he's also getting 20 single target for himself. So he's going to be, with this setup, he's going to have 30 single target resistance and 20 AoE resistance. All matchups in general, this means he has a very, very good defensive setup in terms of surviving damage in general. This is an insane setup. I would not be surprised if this would be very, very hard to deal with in terms of all other elements outside of wind. Future stuff to consider though. The Grey Elk Esper is coming soon, which is focused on DPS for Earth and Pierce if you want to just go for even more damage. The Titan Esper 3-star is coming out soon, I believe. I'm not sure when it's going to be coming out, but it should be soon. Which is going to be focused more on DPS and Spirit for Earth and Pierce, which is specifically going to be used in my situation for Oberon, which can also handle like Helena in that situation. From here, we do know the custom spear came out in JP side of things more recently. People say it's for Camillo, which I can't agree with because it has the light attack. However, because it's a spear that can be usable by other spear users, that means Oberon should be able to use this. What this has is going to be a 172 attack. The sub ability is 15 light attack, which you're not going to use on Oberon, but you're going to be using the 15 spirit with this setup. It also has 100% spirit debuff resistance and 20 pierce attack. This means only spirit penetration will be good against Oberon, and he can stack up spirit a lot. I will say, because 15 spirit is on the sub ability, this means it does not have diminishing returns with other equipment. So if you use Knight's Armor for 20 spirit and then you use custom spirit with it, you have 35 spirit, because the sub ability is not stats directly from the equipment, it's the sub ability on the equipment. So yeah, you can stack up spirit with this. This is something to consider in the future. Lastly, wind DPS, magic attack types, and AoE will be effective against Oberon. I don't want to keep saying it, but Joom is insanely good against him. Halloween Leela is very strong as well, especially if Oberon does not have magic resistance or spirit. He will be deleted very quickly. And then lastly, we do have Helena, who is still, as a lot of people know, if you're not mitigating against her, she will deal significantly high damage. If she's not one-shotting, she has a good chance of two-shotting unless you are mitigating against her in general. And yeah, we've come to the end of the video. I hope you liked my setup and talk and analysis of Oberon, and yeah, until the next video, peace out.